More people joining the race for Maine governor. One of the latest is House GOP leader Ken Fredette of Newport. He is here tonight to answer your questions about his candidacy. Thanks so much for coming in.
Thanks, Amanda.
So you started off mentioning that this is kind of a follow-up to Governor LePage. What does that mean for you?
Well, what it really means is, as a lifelong resident of Maine, I remember the tough times, and particularly if you go back to 2010 and when we were in the Great Recession, unemployment was 8.5%. The state had an unemployment rate of 8.5%. The state pension system was going broke. We owed the hospitals $750 million. We fixed all those things. We worked together with Democrats, with Governor LePage's leadership, and we're in a much better place today. And I think what we want to do is continue that growth in going down the road, not seeing us move backwards. So I think that's why I'm really in the race.
We had former DHHS Commissioner Mary Mayhew in studio a while back when she announced her run for governor, and she talked a lot about the welfare reform. That's also something that you've been a big part of.
It is. I've sponsored legislation, and I've gotten legislation through with the governor and with the commissioner at the time to make sure that we have people that are really looking to work and not necessarily to welfare first and foremost, while at the same time protecting a safety net for those people that most need it.
So the drug crisis has been a huge topic for us. What do you think is the most important issue to tackle first?
Well, I don't think that the legislature has really grappled with the issue of the drug crisis, because I know that's affecting every business in this state, every family, and it's a tragic loss when anybody gets addicted to drugs. And I think treatment is important, enforcement is important, but I don't think that the legislature has really put the full force of what we can do as a state into that, and I think it's something we need to work on. We'll get there, but it's really something that's overdue at this point.
We do have a viewer question from Steve. Will you support the Convention of States movement? For people who don't necessarily understand what that is, first of all, can you explain that?
Yeah, it's really all about really limiting the ability of the federal government to keep just spending money that they don't have. I mean, as we know, federal government is trillions of dollars in debt, continues to spend more money than it takes in. And so the Convention of States is really a process to try to say, hey, let's get the federal government spending out of control. And so obviously, as a Republican, where we have a balanced budget requirement here in the state of Maine, we think the federal government could start to live by that same requirement. So I would do that, yes.
That said, you have talked about reducing taxes, limiting spending. How do you do that?
Well, the fact is we've done it 3 times. I mean, we've done 3 of the largest tax cuts in Maine over the last 7.5 years. I think it's something that we are very proud of as Republicans. We need to continue to push that down, but at the same time, we've taken tens of thousands of people at the lower end of the income tax bracket completely off the tax rolls, and at the same time making the earned income tax credit refundable for the first time, rewarding those people at the lower end that are working. So we need to continue pushing that down so that we can continue to grow the Maine economy.
All right. Gubernatorial candidate Ken Fredette, thanks so much for joining us live in studio, and he will stick around to answer more questions during the commercial break on Facebook Live.